most gifted athlete ever to touch football field.
Wanted him on the team because I felt like he could help us get to the Super Bowl.
Just how good do you have to be regarded as the greatest cornerback of all time? Now, no matter what your answer is, you can bank on the fact that this guy ticks all the boxes without breaking a sweat. We're talking about the dude who snagged 2 Super Bowl rings in 2 consecutive years, was the only athlete to play in both the Super Bowl and the World Series, and was the first ever Ballad Hall of Fame cornerback. Just in case you missed the memo on who we're talking about, it's none other than the legendary Deion Sanders, A.K.A Prime Time. Without a doubt, Sanders was good. Nah, scratch that. He was exceptional. But just how exceptional was he? Stick around to find out. You see, on August 9th, 1967, Deion Lewin Sanders was born in sunny Fort Myers, Florida. And as soon as the kid could walk, it was clear as day that Deion was practically born with a sports manual in hand. In fact, if there was ever a poster child for sports star of all time, it would be young Deion. Because when he was just in high school, he quickly picked up not 1, not 2, but 3 different sports: football, basketball, and baseball. And to top it off, he was a Letterman and All-State honoree in all 3 of them. Apart from being exceptionally skillful, Sanders was a physical specimen like no other, even at a very young age. His skills and physique were so impressive that they were impossible to miss. His speed, agility, and versatility were just off the charts incredible. Deion was playing like a pro both on the baseball and football field like it was a walk in the park. And on the hardwood courts, he was just a flat-out beast. So it was no surprise that he quickly earned himself the nickname Prime Time after scoring 37 points in a basketball game. When he was just 16 years old, Sanders began cementing his name in the marbles of history by landing a spot on the Florida High School Association All-Century team, a lineup of the top 33 players in 100 years of high school football history in the state. His terrific performance at such a young age caught the attention of a lot of baseball clubs. For starters, later that same year, the Kansas City Royals picked him in the 6th round of the 1985 Major League Baseball draft. According to then Royal Scouting Director Hart Stewart, the club had already reached a verbal agreement with Sanders, who was offered $140,000 for signing. The only problem was, Deion was a hot commodity at the time. He had other big colleges simultaneously knocking on his door and, as a result, he didn't end up signing with the Royals. Instead, he eventually went to Florida State University because it was the closest to his mom. Plus, they were the only ones cool enough to let him play on the field right from the get-go as a freshman. At Florida, Deion kept up his jack of 3 sports status, only this time he mixed things up a bit. He dropped basketball and replaced it with track, and like you would expect, Prime Time wasted no time in turning heads on the tracks. Deion also switched things up in football as he went from playing quarterback in high school to playing cornerback in college. Now, while it would have been pretty understandable for anyone to struggle with such an insane switch, Deion wasn't just anyone, and he proved it on different levels. He made plays that had everyone scratching their heads and closed in on speedy wide receivers like he was teleporting. And the best part? He was also one of the best players on his baseball team. In fact, he was so good that he helped lead the team to a 5th-place finish nationally back in 1986 while boasting an impressive batting average of .331. Talk about a true all-around athlete. But it was in 1987 that Deion actually showed the world how much of a sports demigod he was. This guy played the baseball semifinal, then left to go and run a leg of the 4x100 relay, and then casually returned for the baseball championship game that same day. And if you're wondering how that turned out, Primetime's track team won the conference championship and his baseball team won the conference title. Despite his mind-boggling performance in these 2 sports, it was his football records that really took the front seat. Under the watchful eye of head coach Bobby Bowden, Sanders became the cornerback legend of college football. He wasn't just good, he was consensus All-American good, snatching the title back-to-back in 1987 and 1988. And let's not forget his 1986 third wheel moment as a third-team All-American. The frosting on the cake was that Deion was also an interception ninja, snagging 14 picks in his career and sprinting a whopping 100 yards for a touchdown off of one of those interceptions. And with that, he broke Fred Biletnikoff's interception return record by a whole yard. Deion continued the 1988 return season as the hottest baller on the block. Not only did he snatch up the 1988 Jim Thorpe Award, but he also decided to moonlight as a punt return rock star for Florida State. Sanders led the entire nation with his punt return average and casually shattered his school's record for career punt return yards in the process. But he wasn't done flaunting his awesomeness in the 1988 season just yet, so he decided to carry it into the postseason. In the final 5 seconds of the Sugar Bowl, Sanders pulled off the ultimate heist by nabbing an interception to lock in Florida State's 13-7 victory over Auburn. After seeing his amazing talents on the field, the New York Yankees selected Deion in the 30th round of the 1988 Major League Baseball draft. In turn, he signed with the team in June and made his electrifying MLB debut on May 31, 1989. Barely a day later, Deion was also set to play with the Atlanta Falcons in the NFL, where he was drafted as the 5th pick overall. And what better way to reintroduce himself as the hottest kid on the block than to hit a home run and score a touchdown on a 68-yard punt return in his NFL debut? Yep, he did that. This guy scored a touchdown and hit a homer in less than 24 hours and made history as the only player ever to do so. On the baseball field, Deion was more than just a one-time wonder. The GOAT spent a couple seasons racking in an insane 300 batting average that not only helped him lead his team to reach a World Series, but also helped him make history again, but this time as the only person on the entire planet to play in both a Super Bowl and a World Series. During his 5 years with the Falcons, Deion was an interception magnet. He snagged an impressive 24 picks and turned 3 of those into jaw-dropping touchdowns. In 1992, he was leading in kickoff return yards with a total of 1,067, averaging a whopping 26.7 yards per return. And check this out. In 1993 alone, he hit a career high with 7 interceptions. Couple that with 10 touchdowns in just 5 years, and it's not difficult to see why Prime Time is a football icon. When Deion wrapped up his time with the Falcons, he jumped ship to the San Francisco 49ers for the 1994 season. And without a doubt, you can say this was where he arguably had his best season as a professional football player. With the 49ers, Deion recorded 6 interceptions and returned them for an NFL best 303 yards and 3 touchdowns, averaging 50.5 yards per return. This, folks, turned out to be the most interception return yards in a single season since Charlie McNeil in 1961. Sanders also returned 2 of those interceptions for a gain of at least 90 yards, making him the first player to do this in NFL history. Fast forward to the Super Bowl that year. Deion went on to lead the 49ers to a decisive victory over the San Diego Chargers after recording an end-zone interception in the 4th quarter. This win earned him his very first championship ring. By the end of the 1994 season, it was undeniable. Deion Sanders was in an elite league of his own. His magnificent performance throughout the year earned him the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. After his contract with the 49ers was up, teams were all over Deion like flies on honey, and for obvious reasons. In fact, he had so many options that he had to shoot a commercial rocking 6 different jerseys because he wasn't sure what team he would end up on. Eventually, Deion signed with the Dallas Cowboys after the team agreed to let him double as a wide receiver. Plus, the Cowboys made Deion the highest-paid defensive player in the NFL at the time, offering him a 7-year contract worth $35 million with an extra $13 million signing bonus. Deion's influence on the team was so strong that it was nicknamed the Deion Sweepstakes, and it didn't take long before they began to see outrageous results. Because in 1995, he helped the Cowboys win their 3rd Super Bowl, which also turned out to be his 2nd. Deion spent the next 3 seasons as a first-team All-Pro for the Cowboys, and after a Pro Bowl campaign in 1999, he left the team for good. In the year 2000, he joined the Redskins, but decided to retire after spending 1 year with them. He, however, shocked the football world a year later when he decided to pick up from where he left off. This time, he joined the Ravens and spent 2 years there before he hung up his football cleats in 2006. After a run-through of his stellar career, it's impossible not to think about Deion Sanders when talking about the most legendary cornerback in the history of football. Do you agree? Let us know in the comments.